rebel ever pulled was convincing the world it didn't exist.
Hey!
You hit play, and I'm like, I found him. It's my last bite.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had no idea you were still eating. I thought you finished.
I'm almost. I decided quick, or it's gonna be cold later.
Oh, last bite. I'm sorry. How was it? Did you enjoy it?
It's delicious.
It was delicious. Welcome to the live stream of consciousness. I'll
Hello.
say it for you.
Thank you.
We are here. This is Jesse Blaze, your amazingly chewingly host.
Not with pet stains because I've been traveling all day and sweating my balls off.
And I am Michael Zinn. Can you guys hear us is what my question is, because I had to change this setup a little bit to accommodate the both of us sitting here. And that's why the microphone is sitting right in the middle like that. It seemed all right. I did a test earlier. It sounded like the vocals were good. Just give us a little acknowledgement in the chat if it sounds good. If it's too... Yes, loud and clear. Thank you, Ninja Kitty. What is up, Ninja? How's everybody doing? All right.
Hello, Taylor. Hey, Courtney. Hey, Ninja Kitty. Angela, all you people out there in La La Land. And because I'm not in La La Land, I'm in New York next to my friend. See, it looks like we're on separate screens, but see, I'm here. I can cross the threshold.
Yes.
La La. We're actually here in the same room. How's it going, my friend? Nice to see you.
It's going great. It's wonderful to see you.
Yeah.
And actually be in the same room as you.
It's so nice.
Sure.
I traveled out here this week for my son Grayson's birthday on Monday.
Rocking.
And I got my girlfriend Julie with me. And she's never really been to New York before. So
awesome. Very
she's
cool.
getting to experience the New York vibes, which is cool.
To meet her.
Yeah, I think we're going to go to Coney Island on Sunday.
Awesome.
Baby.
Very cool.
So
Awesome.
that's really cool. And life is good. How's things by you?
Things are awesome, man. It's funny you say Coney Island. I passed Coney Island last weekend. I went on a road trip with Adam and the Metal Hawks. They were playing a festival down there called Wood Talk, which was this kind of collection of all of the artists that are kind of popular on TikTok. Like Adam and the Metal Hawks had done this duet with Jack Black, and they got like millions and millions of views.
Mm-hmm.
So they're being asked to do some stuff now, and they've gotten some notoriety. And they are phenomenal band, young guys. They're all like 20. Adam, the singer, is a guy who won. I don't think he won American Idol, but he was on American Idol for a few rounds. I saw a bunch of clips on YouTube of him on American Idol. He's an amazing, amazing singer, and he does have that kind of Jack Black voice, which is why they attracted that attention. But man, amazing time in Virginia. Steve Sage was kind of taking on temporary tour manager for the weekend.
Is it okay that I keep looking at you on the screen like I do when I'm in Los Angeles, or should
absolutely.
I look at you?
I don't know. We could probably.
Can we look like this?
Yeah, we could probably talk.
Can we
each
gaze
other.
into each other's eyes? That's awesome. So happy to hear that that's going so good for all of them.
Yeah.
They definitely have a great vibe. Our mutual friend Steve Sage was along with you. He was telling me about it, saying it was great too.
Yeah, it was really.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
People who follow me on Facebook or whatever might have seen I posted earlier in the week of just like that I was proud of myself, which was weird. It's so funny, like a post like that. Like
No,
I went to go write that like the day before,
Right.
and I didn't want to post it because I felt like guilty, like I felt guilty posting this.
Well,
I was proud of myself.
Tell us what you.
But I was just feeling it very strongly. No,
I mean, I think we
it is
know,
a
but-
lot of things.
Yes.
I mean, really, really a lot of things.
Awesome.
A lot of things going on that are different for me, or new things and changes and stuff. I mean, I just got brand new representation for voiceovers and hosting and things like that, and
Awesome.
that was great and had a wonderful meeting. But I think that actually happened after I had written I'm proud of myself, which was really like, I think I had just gotten,
that's it.
it was,
right there, right?
I had gotten through a day where I had just done so many different things at a very high level. And
Right.
I realized that there really weren't that many people on the planet. Or I shouldn't say not that many. It's like, let me be honest. I don't know anyone who could have replaced me on that day.
Awesome.
I was proud of myself because I realized that I was
Cheers
the
to that.
only person who was capable of showing up and doing the half
All
a
the things
dozen
that need to
things
be done.
I did. And it was
Yeah.
all like a ton of different things
That's great.
in one day. And I just went, I don't know a single person actually who could really live up to
Have
what I
done
just
that.
did today.
Perfect.
And that really, means something, means something to me that I uniquely was able to fulfill a number of roles in really good ways, and
Awesome.
including doing a bunch of card readings, which
Oh, yeah,
I've been doing more readings for people who I don't know.
Awesome.
Like on any level, like so much of my early card readings was
Okay.
just like putting it out there to people who had an awareness of me on some level.
So tell us how that's going.
It's been going great. I'm reading as Angel Benyu Bethesda,
Right.
which Angel was my name. My mom was going to name me Angel before she changed her mind last minute to Jesse. And I read angel cards, so I just thought it made sense.
It worked.
I have a page on Facebook if you're interested in ever getting your cards read.
What is it? I'll put it up here.
It's Angel Benyu Bethesda on Facebook. I don't know, what the tags would be or whatever. But yeah, and now I'm starting to get like reviews on my page of people, talking about my readings, and it just was very, very kind and cool.
That's awesome.
Everybody's was just so kind, and the
It
things
must
that
be
people said.
validating when it's somebody you don't know, and the reading is.
It's really
feels
validating
right,
when it's somebody I don't know,
That's gotta
and
be great.
and really I don't know.
What Angel? What is it? What's the middle one?
Angel Benyu, Bennu, Bethesda.
Got that.
But the interesting thing is, and I mean, it's been a minute since I read you, and I don't know if I had the exact same protocol before, because now I just took it a lot more seriously when I started to do it professionally. And the main thing that I'm about when I do this is not getting any information from the person who I'm reading until I have pulled all the cards and told them what I think the cards mean. And then I say, so why are you here?
Right.
And tell me what made it that this moment in time was the time to get a reading.
Right.
So I could have been telling them for the past 10 minutes about romance. I could have been telling them for the past 10 minutes about their job.
But then do you apply it to what they tell you, why they came, and you're like, well, here's what we did apply.
I'm always right.
Right. Awesome.
and that's and I don't say that I'm always right. I don't know that I'm going to be right. I have no idea that I'm going to be right. And I'm very nervous, actually, because I'm all in on whatever the cards say. So I'm telling them, and then I'm like, gee whiz, I really hope that this has something to do with your life right now. And then I ask them a question, and I'm like, all right, so tell me some things. And then they start telling me things, and sure enough, every time
that's great,
it comes back in confirmation of so much. And I've never had an instance where I wasn't able to immediately go, oh, okay, well, I see what this is saying then, and get more from it. So it's really cool. And actually, Julie's been helping me with that. She's been helping me, to put my myself out there, as a card reader, and it's really cool. And she's actually wants to try to get me. She asked me if I would be down to do a festival, one of those fairs. And I said, absolutely. I would actually really love to do that. I think that's so fun to just be sitting in my room with my crystal. Step up to Benyu Bethesda. I really want to do that.
That's great. Awesome.
So that got offered to me, and I'm like, in the future, I'm going to do that soon. But really, it's just a ton of things, including writing and some comic book things that are coming in the pipeline, and just job opportunities and support from family, support from friends.
Amazing.
My mother, she every time she talks to me, it's been like building and building. She says the same thing, but I mean, just the most that she had said the other day as I was leaving, and just was, I am so proud of you. You are kicking ass.
Wow.
You're just like, I'm so impressed. I can't get over everything that you're doing, and everything you're overcoming, and how you're approaching it all and your attitude and just all
Right.
these things. And, and this is really an interesting thing, though. To a certain degree, these things have been true, like my mom
Sure.
could have felt these ways
Right.
a while ago.
Right.
But this is a really important spiritual lesson, guys. And it's really like, take this to heart. And I've talked about this in other fashions about how we can't do it ourselves. We need the support of our family. We need the other person sometimes to open the door when there are things in our hands, And in an instance of my mother and her saying these things, I had like this moment where I went, well, I'm glad that she's catching up to where I'm at. Because I felt a little like, you're a little late to the party, Mom, but I really appreciate that you have come to this place.
Feels good having you.
Yeah,
at the
because
party.
I
Right,
kind of
right,
felt like, not much really has changed, but
Right.
what you're saying has changed.
Right,
You're
right.
feeling different.
Right.
And then it just dawned on me like ton of bricks. I'm like, if the important, influential brains of God around me don't feel the way she now feels, how am I supposed to achieve any of the things that I'm trying to do for myself
Interesting.
by changing how I feel?
Mhm.
And I realized, oh man, I literally can't move forward the way I really will move forward
Right.
until I've given the proper time for the people around me who love me to
Right.
see it change and for them to get out of my fucking way. Because literally, your mom worrying about you,
Right.
your mom going, oh no, I
Right.
don't know,
Listen,
Michael,
right.
this might not be a good idea. That will kill your
Yeah,
momentum,
you don't have to
even
tell
if
me.
you don't listen to it.
Right,
Because
right.
she's out there in the
Right.
universe just as powerful as you
Absolutely.
are, having something to
Oh,
say about you
That's so clear.
that
That's
goes
so
against
clear.
the thing,
Yes.
And
Yeah.
as I like clicked into that as I was on my way over here, to New York,
You just helped
and
me
she
so
had,
much. You
did
don't
I?
even realize.
Yeah,
you did.
and
You did. You
well,
really
and
did.
I was hoping as it clicked in for
You
me,
really
I was
did.
like, man, this is kind of aggravating. Because if you told me this yesterday, I would have been like, I can't get all
And
those ducks
and
in a row.
It's totally what I've been thinking too. Like I've been struggling with my mom, on the current issues, and I'm not even going to get into the current.
Oh
issues.
yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that on the side of that in a second,
yes.
because I want to talk a little bit.
But it's really been a strain energetically on me and our relationship, and I wouldn't even have put it that way 10 years ago, that it's an energetic strain, but that's exactly what it is. And what you just said makes so much sense. So, and I've been struggling with, how do I work on it? Nah, it's not my problem. It's her problem. But it is my problem, and I do need to work on it.
Yeah. And it's just, it's this thing of, it behooves you to include those who may have you on their mind in your growth process. Because as you're changing and as you're attempting to do things in a better way than you did yesterday, if the people around you who love you can't see that and can't tell that, there is a truth to them maintaining a reality that might not even be exactly true for you, but it's still true for them,
and that makes it true.
Yeah, and
energetically true.
And now that I see
so sense,
that my mother is like there, and she's just like, oh my, I'm just so impressed, and you're so empowered. Like she is just speaking my praise. It's so sweet. It's so wonderful that, like, please don't think me an egomaniac. I so humbly am grateful for all these sweet compliments and these things. But it's been a lot of work and a lot of hard work. And, and sometimes you hope that people will maybe notice the changes you've made a little sooner or whatever it is.
Totally.
But as I felt her energy, I literally went, I'm unstoppable.
Nice. You're a
this is it,
baby.
This is
you're
done.
A fucking juggernaut.
It's done. Everything that I've been working on this past 10 years, I got it. I won. I convinced.
You know how I feel about it, man.
But it's because
you gotta feel about it.
But it's not even that. It's because I convinced the most powerful mental influencer of my reality in my life that everything's okay.
Good job.
And now that she's convinced that everything's okay,
It is.
it is.
Yeah, man.
Because the only thing that was missing yesterday when I went, you know what, everything's
So
okay,
good.
and I know how I'm going to get this all together, and I know where I'm going, and I feel all right about it.
Mhm.
That was half the battle. Half the battle was me
Right.
getting there. The other half was me executing that thing in such a way
Right.
that it showed my father, and it showed my mother, and it showed my brothers, and it showed my friends,
Right.
and it showed the people on social media who support me, and it showed all of these people that, man, I got a good feeling about Jesse, man. He just keep on trucking and pushing along, and I could just feel his energy changing. And as my energy changed, and I was able to not shy away from exposing my energy to the people around me,
Mhm.
and each one of those people, as the Michael Zins get on board and go, yeah, I'm really proud of you, Jess. You're making so many progress, and you're doing the things that you said you were going to do, and you're practicing what you preach. That is everything. And really what it is, it's God coming into resonance with himself. It's God accepting himself
Mhm.
by virtue of the other people who represent God. And that
That's what we talk about.
is
That's what
necessary.
we're here for. I love it. You're
It is
so good,
necessary. We
So
need
good.
everybody to be like, I'm on board with that.
Yeah,
and not be in
And that's
resistance.
what we're here to do. We're trying to get everybody on board, right? Aren't we?
Now, I want to get to our guest in just a second.
Okay. Oh, I see. He's popped up.
Yes,
in
I
the
see
green room.
that we got we've got someone in the waiting room waiting to get in. But I just want to say a thing. There's this because of the abortion issue has been going on with everything that happened with Texas.
Oh.
People have been talking about choice,
Mhm.
choosing. I was just talking to my father about this. We always talk about this. I made a post the other day, and nothing about abortion. If we were going to specifically speak about abortion, I might tell you that while I am pro-choice and I believe that everybody should choose, in my own reality, I am pro-life, and I have prayed and desperately never wanted to be in a situation where I felt like we needed to get an abortion, because
Right.
I really do have a hard time with that
Sure,
issue.
sure.
But it's not for me to decide anything for anybody else.
Right.
And more than the abortion issue, the vaccination issue, any issue, I believe in everyone's right to choose for themselves. And, I made this post and it got hijacked by a couple of my stupid, overly dogmatic,
You're being
religious.
judgmental.
I'm being judgmental of their stupidity because I was defending them and everybody else on the planet. And then they got into the middle of my defense of everyone and they said, nope, there's a right answer and a wrong answer. And I'm sorry, when somebody is sitting there saying, hey, we have to let everybody have their free will and decide, I do not expect anyone, and I will call you a stupid asshole for coming into me going, hey, mutual respect, and you going, you have lost all my respect at that point, and I may tell
It's
you to
strange.
shove your
Listen,
head up your butt
It's
at
strange
that point.
That's what's going on even, and I gotta say,
It's so terrible
It's so
that that's
terrible.
what's going
It's
on.
terrible.
And the post was not about any of the specifics of the
Right.
thing.
I
I
saw
was
it. I
trying
saw
to
it.
speak right down to the heart
Yeah.
of just, you really got to let everybody live
choose.
and
Yeah.
let live. Let people choose. Because look, if you are that God guy who's like, God doesn't want an abortion, listen, man, God knows the difference between you twisting somebody's arm to get them to do the biblical dogmatic thing that you think is right, and them choosing to do the thing because of whatever reasons they choose to do the thing.
Right.
This isn't a game where if we can save people by forcing them to think the way we think at the last minute before they die, quick, baptize them. That's
Right.
not how it works.
Right.
If the baptism is the thing, well, then they have to come to that on their own. I happen to think little dogmatic bits like that aren't exactly the thing. It's a lot much more subtle. I think so much of the acceptance of the infinity, and all of the things that it says in the Bible. But if you think that it's this specific thing, you don't get there by making people feel ashamed of themselves. You don't get there
That's
by
the big
yelling
thing.
at
That's
people.
what's going on right
Yeah,
now.
and being rude.
It's-
And I literally
it's
went
difficult,
to this religious guy and I said, dude, you are such a fool. I am pro-life. And
Right.
you are on a page where the energy behind the thing that something is being said is pro-life.
Right.
But I believe that we all have to get there on our own if we're going to get there. And you don't have to get there. You go and do whatever you think. Maybe I'm wrong.
No,
You know, and that sort of humility
I agree
of
with
maybe
you.
I'm wrong.
Well, I think it's the energy, and for me, what I've been saying for the past while is it's all about how we treat each other. Period. Like period.
Yes.
Period.
Yes.
Like think about what's coming out of your mouth, what the energy behind it is, and if you would, how you would feel if that energy was coming at you. That's it. Period.
And I know you love the last thing. We'll close it here with but you had said no, absolutely. But I think this is really there in a positive way, and I think this is going to lead to very positive conversation with our friend. So but just because it is this weird like moment where everybody's just being so rude to each other, just really disrespectful, and it's disappointing to me. But I said in the future, Star Trek, there is a concept of the Prime Directive in Star Trek. And the Prime Directive is that the Federation of Planets has decided that they do not influence in the development of other cultures. And essentially what we're saying here is that mutual respect, free will, giving free choice to the galaxy to allow these cultures, these people to develop the way they are meant to through their own discovery, using their own intelligence. It's an assumption that you are just as intelligent and just as valuable as we are, and that you can come to your own conclusions, and that if we just give you the space to make a choice, you'll make ultimately the same choice we make, to mutually respect each other and to live and let live and all these things. So thanks, Julie. Julie says she's so proud of me too. Anyway, it really is the thing, to be open to the choices that other people made, and to know that the more you make yourself a barrier to the choices that people are leaning towards at this moment, the more you're actually alienating yourself from the others around you, and actually preventing your influence from being as strong as it could be if you were just a little bit kinder about living and let living.
Sure. Well, I mean, you got to remember, and not everybody lives like we do, that there's a collective, above the individual is a collective. But but let's
shift the gears.
We are 24 minutes into the show, my friend.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm manic from traveling.
You are manic, a little manic.
Well, our guest was late, so I'm just kidding. No, our guest was.
He was good.
You're right on time.
I told him that.
You're right on time, Blake.
Anyway, so I'm going to introduce our guest. Our guest today is actually an old friend of mine. I haven't spoken to him probably, I'm embarrassed to say, in about 10 years. And, he's a guy who I always really liked. We always resonated with each other. We ended up playing some music together. He's a singer-songwriter, and I was playing kind of as a backup band for a while. And that's how we ended up hooking up. And, he always had a great vibe, and we kind of, after a while, we went our separate ways. I think he moved down to Florida, but I know he started working on some entrepreneur kind of stuff. He was working on an app that was a communication app, which was, I think, kind of ahead of its time, because I've seen what Clubhouse is doing and some of these other apps. I'm going to let him talk about his app, but he started to change and do some things, and then I ended up seeing him the other night on another live broadcast talking about transcendental meditation, which is something that I really want to hear about and learn about. We've talked about meditation and doing these kinds of things as a way to connect, and I've done guided meditations, I've done Reiki, I've done all of these kind of energetic things, and I've certainly resonated with those things. So transcendental meditation is a specific technique that I think changed his life, and that's going to be my introduction. I'm going to bring him on. He's going to tell us all about it.
Without further ado, can we bring on to the program Blake Ian?
Oh, there he is. Hold on a second. Let me give him some equal help. What's up, Blake?
Hey,
How
Blake,
you
how's it
doing,
going,
man?
brother?
How's it going?
Doing good. You know
Good.
what? Can you turn your phone sideways or no?
It's an iPad, but yeah, I can do
Oh, it's
that.
an iPad?
Is that good? Is that better?
There we go.
Yeah.
Rockin'. Awesome. Sweet. How you doing, brother?
Good, good. The only reason I don't usually turn the iPad sideways, and you can tell me if it's annoying, is that the camera's like over there, so it's
No,
weird. But
it's much better.
we're good.
You fill up the space
Yeah,
better.
it's working.
Yeah, you fill up the space
Okay,
better.
cool.
So I saw you on the show, and we have been looking for some people to have some interesting conversations with, and it was perfect. We started our show, just a little history for you because you're new to the game. Jesse did a class on the 13 universal laws, and each class was one of the laws, and
A mix of Hermeticism and Kabbalah, and there's a pretty consistent narrative amongst what the laws of the universe are when you break them down. So we were doing our best to non-denominationally just kind of look at what everybody's been basically saying is the truth of our foundational universe.
Yeah, no, that sounds awesome. We got into a little bit of that last night.
Yeah.
Kind of not in those exact words, but we kind of touched upon that concept. I don't know if you were there for the whole thing, Mike, or if you popped in for a minute, but yeah, we talked about kind of the universal truths, or the places like there are endless amount of rivers that lead to the same ocean, kind of.
I was there for that.
And
I was
so,
there for that part of the conversation. Yes.
yeah, and so and similar to what you guys were just talking about, it's like who is anybody to enforce their theory on somebody else. And I think for me it comes down to what you guys were just talking about. For me, it's like about the why. I think if people understand the reason behind the prime directive, or behind the golden rule, or all of these things, for me the why is very simple, is that there is not one person who has ever lived on this planet that actually knows. I mean, there's no reason to think, and I don't want to offend anybody if you feel that maybe there has been a prophet who has touched some of that. I believe that
Even them, though, they're only touching
a little bit of it. Yeah,
yeah,
they've gotten a
piece of it.
glimpse. They've gotten a glimpse, and they tried to share it with us, and that's beautiful. I'm not Christian. I believe that someone named Jesus once walked the earth and probably tapped into some serious universal, secret stuff, and caught a glimpse and wanted to share it in a really beautiful, loving, compassionate, way. And so I think the same about Socrates. I think the same about Bob Dylan. I think the same about, there's a lot of people have touched on the source, artists, philosophers, who we call prophets, but none of them even would claim to actually know the whole story, or even a significant amount of the story. So if nobody knows, then it's just absurd for you to have any sort of like forceful opinion on what other people might think is accurate. Like, it's your best guess. And if you feel good about living that way, awesome. If you find a group or community of people who kind of agree with you, even better. But then if that group finds another group that disagrees, it's like becomes this like, we're right, you're wrong, which is like, it's just so absurd.
Well, and there's a really decent argument spiritually when you start to look at this stuff, from the proper perspective, that it's literally individualized. So for each individual, it's different. And that individual can only touch a fraction of what they're experiencing in their individual version of their reality. And then for somebody else next to them, it's very different in a lot of ways. And they can only touch a fraction of it.
And I find that to be not a problem. And I find it to be not coincidental. I find it to be with a purpose, of the same way that like a puzzle has like a lot of different pieces. Like, we got to bring like the idea. I think the solution is within all of us putting our puzzle, coming here and be like, well, I have this little piece of the puzzle. I figured out how to
comparing notes.
That's a great analogy.
I've spent a lot of time figuring out how to like write a song and build technology. Like, that's what, and meditation. Like, those are things that I have spent thousands of hours doing. So those are things I have to offer to the group, like as a little perspective. Right. I have, there's so many things, infinite things I have zero idea about. And so, yeah, that's where masterminds come in handy. It's like, we're all basically one giant mastermind. Sorry, Mike, I cut you off. And
I love what you just said, man. That's
we kind of, we actually kind of jumped ahead, because what we usually like to do is before we get into the conversations, we like to ask our guest what we ask for their definition of what is consciousness. This is the live stream of consciousness, and I think that's kind of what we were just talking about. But give it
if you
to
could
us.
encapsulate, give us your best.
I mean, what is it? I would say what I just said. I have no idea, and I don't think anybody on the planet does. Like, as far as where it comes from, what is it made of? You know, all these things. Where's it going? Who made it? I don't think. I honestly, and I said this on the interview last night. I don't think. I believe if we were supposed to be able to know, we would know, and I think we don't know, so we don't know, and so that's what I think. But as far as what my glimpse of it is consciousness is the whole that we are a part of, that we receive our small puzzle piece of to do some stuff. And I think, again, not by because of any sort of dogmatic principle or anything, like just evidence to me in the way that I've chosen to live and an experience that I've had, is that when you are there just to share your information and your glimpse with other people and find other people who are willing to, share genuinely, brutally, honestly, and with compassion, their glimpse with you, life is better. For me, that is just that I have proof of, that I have evidence of. So for me,
Agreed.
I believe that's what our purpose is, and that's what the point of the consciousness is. I've also seen people who are not compassionate, people who are selfish, and certainly I have been those things in my life. I try to be much less and less those things now. In the last 10, 15 years, I've done a lot of work on myself, but I'm not flawless, right? But I have definitely seen, if you are the opposite, life is worse. It sucks. Sleep is worse.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
You're creating that energy. Yeah, you're creating that energy, and that's exactly what, dude. You should be on the show all the time.
You nailed it. Love your vibe, Blake. Great to meet you.
You totally nailed
Thanks.
it.
You too, Jesse. Nice to meet you.
I want to ask you about meditation. So it's interesting. I've been meditating for a long time now, or whatever. And anybody, once you start meditating, it eventually becomes something where people will see you meditate. And I think there's a little bit of an assumption that oh, well, easy for him, that oh, look, he's making it look easy. I literally was on my break at the collectibles shop that I work at part-time. So I get my discount on all my toys and comics. and I was sitting in the back and I was meditating on my break, and I'm doing my little humming, whatever. And this guy sees me after I open my eyes, and he's all impressed. He obviously wants to meditate. And I just said to him, I went, look, man, truth be told, the first time I meditated, I yelled at my ex-wife, majorly yelled at her. I came out of meditation and I went, you ruined it. It was your fault. I got so mad. And this took practice. This was not natural to me. The first time somebody said, yes, stop thinking, all I do is think. That's my whole MO. I'm thinking, to stop and smell the roses and come in for some meditation was not an easy thing in any way, shape, or form. And my brother and mother both did TM, and that was their sort of gateway and a little bit of the influence that started pressing on me. I feared that I had a lot of brain damage from playing football and getting hit by a car when I was younger. And meditation had been shown to do a lot of good work for your brain. So I kept at it despite the fact that it was not really easy for me. And now people will see me meditate and they're like, oh, look how easy that is. What was your experience getting into, TM in particular is I've figured out how to help myself meditate in ways. TM, it's my way or the highway. They tell it's very specific. So much of the direction you get, at least from what I've heard from others who practice. What was your experience like, and how did you get turned on to it in the first place?
Yeah, so there's so many things that I want to respond to from what you just said.
Yeah, I knew there would
be. This came up on this. I would love for you guys to check out this conversation. I think Zin saw some of it. It's on my Instagram at Blakey, and actually, it's on the Transcendental Meditation channel on Instagram. I think I shared it in my story. But if you go to their thing, there's the whole interview is there. It's 25 minutes. I'd love for you to watch it, Jesse. I think you
The
get a
one
lot out
from
of it.
last night.
Yeah, I'm going to.
Yeah, the one from last night. It's on
It
the.
was great. I popped on right when you went live. I popped on and I stayed on for the whole thing. It was
Oh,
great.
awesome! So you saw it.
Yeah, it was,
So yeah,
it was,
so it's funny, Mike. We touched upon three things, and that wasn't just a plug. It was half a plug, but also half a. You had mentioned like a few things, Jesse, that we touched on in this conversation. One being, oh, you look, I'm sure it's so easy for you. It was literally something that Emily, who I was talking to from the TM organization, said that she comes across a lot. And it was like, and my response, I laughed. I was like, well, yeah, now it looks easy, right? Like I just hit in April was 10 years of TM every day of my life for 10 years, twice a day, 20 minutes every day for 10 years.
Wow.
And so
Congratulations. That's a cool milestone.
thanks, man. It's a few thousand hours. It's a few thousand hours of of serious meditation. And so it was like there was that. So A, I'll say that I definitely can relate. B, I absolutely can relate that in the early stages of doing meditation, even TM. I had that. I was in an office building in New York City at the time when I started it, and I put a sign on my door that said "Meditating, do not knock." Like the next 30 minutes, do not knock. And somebody from the office thought it was urgent enough and knocked on the door. And I was like, during my meditation, I didn't answer. I was like, I'm meditating. There's a sign that says do not knock. Like, there's no, God forbid there's an emergency, but I don't think, I finished meditating, kept knocking, and I stood up and I was like, is everything okay? And the thing they needed from my office that they had left in my office was, was not urgent. And to me, anyway, it was certainly not life or death. It was not anybody's health. It was, some superfluous thing that needed to happen that could have happened 20 minutes later. And I freaked the fuck out. I yelled at this girl, and I feel bad to this day. I mean, I was like, what the fuck do you not? I can curse all I want on this thing, right?
Yeah.
I was like, Mike knows me. I can't go like 5 seconds without the word fuck. I was like, what? I was like, what? There's a sign on my door that says do not knock. And you started knocking on my door. And when I didn't respond to you, you kept knocking. Like I freaked out on her, And like, I look back at it now and it's like, that was just practice for my practice. It was like, it was not, she was doing me a favor. Cause it's like, it was like, I don't know.
You're like, aren't I meditating these feelings away? I thought.
Well, yeah, not feelings away, but meditating the ability to strengthen this muscle that is not going to explode on people. And, and it's like, so there is that. I totally relate. I will say, the, difficult thing, as far as meditating being difficult, I will say with TM, I did a lot of different meditations. And by the way, I don't work for TM. I'm in no way compensated by them. I'm not an ambassador. I just am someone who took a 3-day class. And since then I've done it every day of my life, and they don't ask me for money. There's no dues, there's no organization so that I belong to. But I will say, if it's helpful to people, that the whole, like, I did Dharma punks in New York City with, I'm forgetting the person's name, although I think it's also a Jesse. He wrote the book Recovery. Anyway, I did a lot of different meditation classes for years, and I always found it to be a difficult thing. And when I started doing TM, I did not find it to be a difficult thing, and it has not been difficult for the rest of the days that I've been doing it. So I will say that is a big difference, and because it is a passive meditation, not a contemplative, not a guided, not a mindfulness approach. Those other types of approaches are about doing something, about how do I clear my mind? How do I stop thoughts? How do I stop getting aggravated? TM is very much, how do I, just a method, a technique to fall into a very natural state of meditation, just like you fall asleep. And once you fall into it, you're just there, and there's really no incorrect, like, maybe my mind is full of thoughts for 19 of the 20 minutes. Maybe sometimes I'm just totally in a transcendent state for 19 of the 20 minutes. Or maybe sometimes it's half and half. But that's all okay. It's all part of meditative, a correct
learning
meditation
to be
practice.
okay with it. For those watching at home, learning to be okay with sitting and what happens with your mind when you do. That is half of, I'll say the battle for, like most people who are like, I can't meditate.
It's that understanding what meditation is.
Well, yeah. And when people feel like they're
absolutely,
Oh yeah. And when people feel like they're fighting themselves during the process, but really the process tends to be, and so much of my years of meditation was just me making peace with whatever was going on inside my mind, and so that I could allow whatever it was to be the thing. Because it's not until you start to enter into that state of allowance that you actually do really get to a point where your mind and your body start to cool out about what you're doing, which is very alien in this modern 3D world of like, I'm just going to sit and I'm going to rest and, no fight or flight for 10, 20 minutes. Here I am.
Right.
Still.
Yeah, like I've had fight or flight during meditation, during TM, and it's okay. But I will say when I'm done with that session, I am so much more calm. That fight or flight has been released from me. It's not like it caused it to. It was already there. It was there deep down. There was a bubble. There was a knot that that needed to come up, and it did during meditation. But it's not like sort of the fault of the meditation that I had this fight or flight response or I had this anxious response. It was like it unearthed it, it bubbled up, and then it dissipated, and now it's not there, which is like obviously better, than it being there and me not knowing about it, which is where it was before I sat down to meditate. So yeah.
Well, I was going to ask you because this whole thing fascinated me, and I've heard of transcendental meditation. I've tried other types of meditation. What specifically? How would you describe what transcendental meditation specifically is,
or what makes it unique
to
the other forms or whatever?
And
so yeah,
do you teach it? Because I gotta learn what you're doing.
I don't teach it, but you're on Long Island still, right, Mike?
Yeah, I'm on Long Island. Yeah.
So I'll introduce you to my teacher, Harry Martinian. He learned from the Maharishi in the 60s. He's right there in Garden City. He's brilliant, really sweet man. I believe he still runs the center in Garden City. Definitely go see him. Definitely go to like the orientation. It's like it's like an hour orientation. They do it once a week in every TM center in the world, and it's free. It's nothing. You just go and learn about it.
Wow.
If you want to take a 3-day class, then you do that. But and then that's basically one-on-one with you and Harry, but who taught me. And so I'll make an introduction for you, Mike, to see when his next orientation is. But as far as unique goes, and by the way, as far as people asking me if I teach it, like teaching TM and even being a 10-year meditator of TM is very different. The people who teach it, they go to this this center and they learn from people the method of teaching it, and it's really kind of it's important. And Jesse touched upon like how TM has this sort of like this is the way we teach it. The reason for that, I think it's important to understand, it's not for any sort of like, this is the right way, anything's wrong. It's not that at all. Like I said before, I don't believe I think there's a lot of ways to get there. I think some people reach a meditative state by going for a walk with their dog. I mean, I do sometimes, This happens to be a nice, reliable way, portable, that you can just do and sit down and do. I love that. I don't think anything else is wrong, but what I will say is, the Maharishi who kind of came out of the Himalayas in this area and said, okay, like I'm going to bring this to the Western world in 1955, and then became more known in like the 60s when, he took the Beatles back to, to visit and understand more. And then it kind of hit pop culture. But his point, from what I've read and seen him speak, and you can see him speak on YouTube, it's not about teach it this way, learn it this way, do it this way because I'm right and other people wrong. It's not that at all. It's that humans have a tendency and societies have a tendency to have people who take on things and say, I'm going to put my own little spin on it, and I'm going to put my own little recipe on it. I'm going to take TM, I'm going to, sprinkle a little of this. And then you get like sort of sects, as in SECTS, like segments. Right. Like you get like religions and you get branches, and then you get, and the whole thing kind of dissipates and it becomes more about the person. And I've never met a TM teacher, including Maharishi, that, or seen him talk, where it's about them. It's not about them at all. They're not a deity. They're not a prophet. They're just passing on information generation to generation, like a storyteller.
Let me say something about that too, because it becomes a game of telephone. And there's something that I really, really appreciate about in a lot of Native American cultures. These stories, tribal stories, would be handed down from person to person, from one shaman to another, verbally, word for word. Do not change one word.
Yep.
And because the history is the history is the history, and if all of a sudden we're playing telephone and Johnny Shaman and Jimmy Shaman and Jamie Shaman are being fast and loose with the story, by the time we get to modern day, we will have lost all the nuance in these stories and these myths is everything. It's the nuance that we're trying to learn from. So I
And
really
I
do
think
appreciate that
that's
part of
exactly
it.
it. I mean, and I think that's happened in a lot of religions. I think that's happened in a lot of societies, governments, just all over the place, except when it's, native culture, it's like sacred. That's the way they kept it correct, is by keeping it sacred. And also, and that's under a lot of persecution. I mean, I was raised Jewish. I don't consider myself a practicing Jew or any organized religion, but my lineage is certainly Jewish, and I have respect for that and my ancestors. And Jewish people had a lot of persecution in their history, obviously, in the last 100 years and in the last, thousands of years. And so I think that sort of makes the people grab on a little stronger and tighter and say, hey, we got to pass this story on, like as it is, exactly as it was, happened, because there are, there's a little paranoia that creeps up, understandably, that like people are going to try and take the story away. They can try and twist the story. I have relatives 3 generations ago that escaped the Holocaust and lost their families. There are people today who say it didn't happen. Like,
Right.
and I'm not here to say, and I'm not trying to start any sort of political religious war, but that
Right.
fear is why it's important to say, well, this, you don't want to change the story. You don't want to, like Jesse said, play a game of telephone. So bringing it back to meditation, this is a technique that allows you to fall into this very natural state that already exists. You're not doing something. You're not learning to do something man-made. You're learning to find your path and fall back into a very natural state, as natural as sleep, dream, wake. There's meditation. It already exists. And if that technique has been found for the human brain and body to fall into that, you just want to get it clear. And you don't want teacher Emily, who I spoke with last night, she's not adding in her own flavor. It's not about Emily. She doesn't have any ego about it. It's not about my congregation, my sermon that I'm writing, my interpretation of God's words, or, the Maharishi wasn't about that. He was just like, hey, my ancestors have found some really cool stuff you could do with your mind, body, and breath to get yourself into a really in-tune place of the universe. And it's helpful in a million different ways. Let's make sure we pass that message perfectly and not put my own thing into it. And so that's the reason for why TM has this, you got to do it this way. It's like, well, if you want to learn TM, that's the whole point. I want you to have the message very clearly.
Yeah, you were saying something last night about how expanding on what you just said about it's a natural state. You were also saying how you don't learn how to go to sleep. What I mean? It's just something that you know
Did
to
you just
shut
make
the
me
light.
yawn magically?
No.
You're like, you don't learn how to go to sleep. It's like, what
It
happened?
was like a little Jedi Zen.
Psychic.
You're learning how to go to
I
sleep.
gotta go to sleep.
No,
So, Mike,
but
I love that analogy when people say to me, when they try to ask me to explain a little bit about it. It's that's what it feels like to me. It's like
is
we've
it like a
forgotten to
checklist?
meditate.
Is it like, here's the checklist of the 10 things you've got to do? I mean, that's what's
It's
got me
setting
so curious.
conditions. It's setting conditions. It's nothing.
Okay.
It's nothing crazy. It's setting
Right.
certain
No, I can't
conditions that,
imagine.
again, people are really well trained to, again, be very specific about the conditions and they guide you as much as like a guided meditation is. That first time you do TM, you are there with your teacher and they are guiding you in.
Okay.
Just for like a minute or two. But
Right.
once you're sort of your mind sort of makes that path. They guide you in, but they also help you make a path there so that you can go home and get back. And that's what I was able to do the first day I took the class. I went home and I got right back there by myself at home that evening and every day since. And so it's I would relate it to similarly, like if we stopped sleeping, because we have just basically as a society, as a race, we have stopped meditating, right? If you look at animals, if you have a pet, they meditate all the time. Animals in nature, like it's wake, sleep, dream, meditate. Those are your 4 states of consciousness. So like we just cut out the meditation because we are busy human beings, right? And so if in 1,000 years sleep was some ancient thing that humans did, and now we're just getting by with these little micro sleeps during the day, these little 10-second micro sleeps, so we don't even realize, just like now we have micro meditations. Like I said, you play tennis, you go for a run, you're petting your dog, you might have a moment of connecting with the unlimited consciousness, right? But you're not having a practice that's repetitive and making sure you do that a certain amount of times a day. So if we stop the 8-hour sleep a day and they turn into these little micro naps or whatever, And then someone sat that person down and said, hey, this is an ancient state of being that you can get into. Here are the conditions. You're going to go into that room. There's something called a mattress and a pillow. You're going to put your head down on the pillow. You're going to shut the lights. You're going to, and they just sort of guided you into sleep. And you fell asleep for the first time in your life. And you slept for 8 hours. And you woke up and you were like, holy fuck. Like I am so rested. Like I can't even describe to you how rested my body is.
I've never felt like this.
Yeah. And like you're waking up in the morning for the first time ever after a night's sleep. You'd be like, holy shit. That's how meditation feels to me. I am just visiting this state that totally has existed since the dawn of man or woman. And, and that's how it feels. And so we're just we're just being reminded. And I feel like my TM teacher has reminded me how to get there. And once I got there, I was like, oh, my brain and body knew how to do the rest now. It was very natural. I do it every day.
So in response to what you're saying, you said something about kind of connecting with source, kind of.
Yeah.
If I may just boil it down to that. I feel like once you are intellectually even aware of that perspective, of that being a possibility, I think then things like you said, it's easy to make walking the dog, that moment for you. You know what I mean? I can remember certain moments for me where I'm like, oh, the birds are singing to me actually right now. And I like really connecting to the moment, where I'm just like, holy shit. Like, I'm just like, holy shit, the moment,
I think you revisit in those moments, but I think it's important to have a disciplined, and I don't mean discipline is such a harsh word. I can't wait to meditate twice a day. So it's a regimen, it's a routine. Routine is important. Every day before breakfast and before dinner, I spend 20 minutes revisiting that place or whatever you want to call it, that state. So every day, 20 minutes, twice a day, before breakfast, before dinner, day in, day out, 7 days a week. It's just, it's different.
So what you're saying is that your astral body looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yeah.
Big muscles.
Totally.
You've put in so many hours that you're like a superhero on the astral plane.
I pick virtual things up and I virtually put them down. I think it's, I think that it's important to do that as opposed to saying, oh, I reconnect with it when I go for a run or when I play tennis or when I walk my dog, or when I go surfing. I've been surfing lately. I live down in Florida now. I'm visiting that connection for moments, but it is not a replacement to have that regimen, as you said, Mike. You got to visit, around the same time of day for the same amount of time. I don't start to do 30 minutes because I've been doing it for so long. I don't do the 12-minute, 20 minutes twice a day. Your brain gets on that cycle and it just now knows how to do it. I close my eyes. I don't use a watch. I close my eyes and I know when it's 20 minutes, as crazy as that sounds. But I've been doing it twice a day for 10 years. So I don't need to look I know what 20 minutes feels like. It has a feel now, So it's like, that's important to get that routine.
I have a few questions for you, if you don't mind, Blake.
Yeah.
Question number one would be, what motivated you in the first place to seek it out? I know for me, granted, I heard people talking about it here or there, but it was really when I started to fear for my long-term health as far as concussions. And, I saw a lot of studies. So for me, I was like, I want to heal my brain. And I have gotten a brain scan since, and I know how much good the meditation has done for me. I had all sorts of damage to my brain, but it was all faint because of years of meditating. What brought you into the room in the first place?
Mental health issues, anxiety, panic attacks on stage, anxiety attacks on stage during performances, probably that Mike was playing bass for and didn't know I was having them.
Wow.
The bitter end, dude, in 2005, whenever that was. I was having tremendous amounts of anxiety before those shows, during the shows on stage. People didn't know, Mike was in my band. He didn't know that.
Well, your energy is a million times different for sure. You know what I mean? Like, definitely. I can see how you've changed through this. And I do want to talk about, I don't want to cut you off, but I do want to talk about how it affected you, and kind of, I don't know, we haven't spoken for 10 years, so I don't know how much
That's crazy.
abundance you're living in and how much you've created that for yourself. But by all appearances, it certainly seems that you have. I'm just going to bring up here, for anyone interested in some of the things that Blake is doing outside of the Transcendental Meditation. This is from Blake's website, and this is a couple of the projects that you've been working on, and the one that you were starting when we were still talking, and kind of, as you kind of went your way, and you were probably super busy with this, and I think you probably started this before you did TM.
I started it about 10 days after I started doing TM.
That's
Not coincidentally.
That's an even better story. I was going to say that's
Yeah.
kind of, that makes a whole bunch of sense. So
Yeah.
that's this first app called Talkers. Why don't you tell us what we're looking at here in general overall?
So Talkers is a software platform that I am the founder and CEO of still. And I started that in 2011. And I started doing TM in April 30th, 2011. And by May 8th, I had called up some friends and said, I've had this idea in my head for a little bit, and it's starting to wake me up at night, and I'm starting to explode with ideas, and started a software company. And that's still around today. And Talkers is it's iterated over the years. We've had some really exciting things. We've had some cool people use it, influencers, celebrities. We've done some campaigns with the UN and Coca-Cola and NBC, and just some cool stuff. And basically, it's I guess if people are familiar with kind of Clubhouse, originally it started as sort of a Clubhouse in text format. And obviously this is 10 years before Clubhouse. Mm-hmm. But so I would call Clubhouse Talkers in audio format. But
more like a chat room, more like a chat room than an actual
a chat room. But the differentiator is that it's more of like a text messaging conversation between influencers, the same way that three of us are doing it right now, except mm-hmm. that in text. And then an audience, the same way that we have this chat where, by the way, people are saying hi to me, and Ninja
right.
Kitty and Taylor, how you doing? Right. So those people are in an audience, and they can ask questions, and we can see the questions. So it was just taking the text conversation format, making that the content. And we've had really cool people do it. And we've had Super Bowl winners from the Seahawks have a conversation while next year's, Super Bowl was on or playoffs was on. We've had Jerry Seinfeld and Russell Brand and, discussing TM, and nice. With Bob Roth, the founder of David Lynch Foundation. It's a text conversation that people are reading,
The filmmaker, David Lynch?
Yeah. David Lynch.
I was wondering if he was going to come up. He's a huge TM guy.
Not only is a huge TM guy. So my teacher is a guy named Bob Roth, and Bob Roth is the co-founder with David of the David Lynch Foundation, and their organization raises money just to teach veterans and children around the world TM for free. And so that's what they do.
Yes, yeah, I heard about that. That's so wonderful. Yeah. The veterans and those who suffer post-traumatic stress, I really believe that they are some of the largest group of people on the planet who could benefit the most severely from really being able to go internally and, like you said, clear some of these. While it might cause some anxiety to sit down with it, it's because that energy's there, and to be able to sit through that energy and release it to move on to another state of being. It's really it's such a tool to help so many souls who are suffering.
Yeah, for sure. So that's what I've been up to, Mike, and that's. Oh yeah.
So this is a little similar to what he was saying. Sorry, Blake. Right. Just as on a more practical sort of viewpoint for our audience, because I always like to just bring it back around to, what can everybody take home? What would you say have been your biggest, 1, 2, 3, number 1, 2, and 3 with a bullet? I have taken this away from TM. Because of TM, I am this. Because of TM, I do this. Because of TM, this. What would you say the biggest results have been for you?
That's a great question. I like to give at least 10 seconds to answer great questions, so I don't just
Yeah, no,
spit
you
out.
got
Take your time. my friend.
it.
I want to give the right.
I
wanna
love
be
all your
close
answers,
to-
so I really care about these questions being the right
Yeah.
one.
No, yeah. Usually, I mean, I Mike knows I talk. I love to talk. I named my company Talkers. I mean, so, but when a question kind of hits me like that, I'm like, oh, let me make sure I feel what I'm saying. So I guess the first thing that popped to my mind is, I, as a kid, pretty young, started smoking a lot of pot, doing LSD, doing mushrooms, doing a lot of that kind of stuff. Pretty young, 13, 14 years old, getting into like hallucinogenics and stuff. And then smoked pot like every day, all the time. And then I did other drugs and stuff that was, kind of indulgent and gross. But those more like adventure drugs and self, introspective kind of, hallucinogenic and psychedelic drugs. They're like kind of like journeys, and especially smoking pot every day, like for inspiration, for creativity, for relaxation from anxiety, self-medication. All of that stuff is not in my life anymore, and it's not through recovery, and it's not through judgment of anybody who smokes pot, by the way, because I think marijuana is a great plant on the earth that belongs here, and I think it's very helpful. I believe in it as I think it is a positive thing. For me, the way I was using it as a sort of medicating, kind of numbing thing, and also as a avenue to inspiration, to write and that kind of stuff, that all comes from TM now and not from any other substance. And so I have not, the occasion, I think I smoked one joint in the last 10 years. And again, I'm not in recovery. It's totally okay. I'm not like, I can't do drugs. I just lost all desire and need for it, because I feel that I get everything that I was getting out of it positive, and nothing that I was getting out of it that was like kind of negative, like that wasn't serving me in my life.
Drawbacks.
Yeah, drawbacks. Like where were you last night? That was the word. Yeah, I'm getting no drawbacks, and so that's and sometimes, by the way, with anxiety issues, smoking pot can make it worse instead of better. So it's really, like meditation, the TM has just replaced that. I can connect to that same place that I write music from. I can get that same deep relaxation. I can, all that stuff that I used to use marijuana for, I get from TM. So that's a big difference. Again, I'm not out there saying you should meditate, you shouldn't smoke pot. For me, like we spoke about at the beginning of the show, for me, that's what works better,
and that's part of it is being able to say it that way. You know what I mean? And realize that,
Yeah,
hey, you know what?
tolerance,
Whatever
yeah.
you're doing is what you're
It's
doing.
the early part of our show, so there's
Yeah.
no judgment. Live and let live. Everybody's
I'm
on their
gonna
own journey.
I'm going to give you one more, and I'm not going to give you a third just because I can't think of one and I don't want to make one up. But the other one I will say is the relationships in my life have just significantly changed in both that, maybe this is 2 and 3 because it's two-parter, in both the people I choose to spend time and give my time with, give my time to, and the relationships I have with people that have been in my life, my whole life, family, close friends, where, obviously we all know those can be, turbulent relationship, especially the ones that you love the most. My relationship, my dynamics with all of them have changed significantly. Siblings, parents, close friends, in a way that I just, I can observe conversations. The observation muscle is worked out. Like you said, the Schwarzenegger part of my brain is the observation muscle. And it's just being able to hear someone say something and not react, but be like, maybe where's that coming from?
Yeah. That's been my
by
biggest gift, I would say, really, and it took maybe a minute, but I said to somebody the other day, there is like a 1, 2, 3 before I respond now. And within that 1, 2, 3, I can choose to not respond at all. And I never used to have that. It would just always kind of be like blah, 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 respond, like just automatic response all the time.
You're playing tennis. Yeah, you're playing tennis.
And
Ball
now,
gets hit you hit it back.
Somebody will say something and I'll sort of be like, and then I'll be like about to say something, but nah. And like I can actually go, no.
My new mantra in the last few months has been strange behavior, because I've had I still, you're not going to avoid people who are stressful and who are, unfortunately not working on those parts of themselves. But I had a couple of business, things and relationships with people I still care for and love and I'm happy I've done business with, but we just don't jive, or they maybe are, overly stressed, or, and I've been able to pause and sort of say like, oh, that's actually a strange thing to say to me, like in my head, not to them, but just be like, not like, why the fuck would you say that to me? It's like, oh, that was weird. Like, that was strange of that person. I'm not judging them. I feel for them. If I can help them, I'll help them. But it has nothing to do with me. I don't need to explain myself. I don't need to respond to it. So
how
just
many
like you said,
conversations are we now avoiding that would have sucked our soul's energy for no good reason because we were just automatically responding to what is this? That's a weird thing to say. Okay. You can just let that fly by. So we're getting towards the end of the show, but I have one last question for you because I'm going all the way, man. I'm going for it. I believe that at the end of this episode, somebody out there who's been thinking about meditating is going to do it. And I think this is the question that'll maybe put us over the top. So, you connected meditation with the psychedelic experience. And, I always kind of get this quote wrong, but essentially, it's been said to me that once you connect to the source, all roads lead to the same place. I've done mushrooms and had crazy experience in ayahuasca. I've gotten wasted in my backyard and been throwing up on the ground, connected to the source, going, this is weird, having a psychedelic experience. And I've had incredible psychedelic experiences, visual, what other people would have called a hallucination, just meditating. And granted, in these instances, I don't have quite a consistent practice like you have, Blake. But a lot of times when I've been really like wanting to get into a deeper meditation, if my family was away, I would say, tomorrow I'm going to go sit down and meditate for as long as it takes for something to happen. And I would go and I would literally sit for 4 to 6 hours meditating. And at a certain point, like 3.5 hours in or whatever, I would like click into a deeper place. And I've had some incredible, crazy, out of this world psychedelic type of experiences that you could never, imagine just sitting in one place doing nothing would have afforded me. And I would just love it if you could share with us any experience that you've had that you were blown away to have while sitting and meditating, doing nothing, but whether it was realization or visual or ancestors or past lives. Like, I know there's a lot of different ways in which meditation can work its way into something a little bit more interesting than that. And all the years you've been doing it, I'm sure you have some experiences along those lines. If you could share some of that with the audience, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, and I see Taylor is saying it's me. I'm going to try meditating. Yeah. So, Taylor, if I could be helpful at all, you can reach me at Instagram at Blake Ian, and there's that video of the podcast I just did. You should check that out, and then shoot me a message if I can be helpful in learning to meditate. So, to answer your question, I mean, okay, so one, I honestly, in that consistent practice, like we spoke about, it's like, if you want to get in shape, right, physical shape, if one person is going to say like, I'm going to go to the gym sometimes, I'm going to go to the gym for 4 hours until I feel something, or I'm going to go to the gym for 2 minutes here and there, walking my dog, or, it's like, you might get some results. You might get some connection with some physical health feelings. You might lose a little bit of weight. But if the other person says, I'm going to go to the gym for 30 minutes, 3 times a week for the next 6 months, that person is going to have hands down solid, reliable results. And so it's the revisit with the same amount of time, at the same time, roughly at the same time of day, continuously, that I feel has allowed me to kind of live a significant portion of my life, thousands of hours in the last 10 years, live in that space. So, to your question, it's like, all the time, like several times a week minimally, do I have experiences of, and do they necessarily blow my mind anymore? Like, I mean, sometimes they do, but like, it's part of my life now, is to be in that place where past lives live, where ancestors lives, where the future lives, where the past lives, where magic lives, where music lives, where everything lives, comes from, and is going to. I spend a lot of time there every single day. So those things happen constantly. But to give you a little bit more of what you're asking for, I've been writing a screenplay because, Mike, as you have mentioned, I'm not busy enough doing enough things. I've been writing a screenplay, and the screenplay came to me. I was sitting outside. I was living in Jersey City before I moved to Del Rey, and I was sitting outside the dog park. It was like early in the morning. Dog is just running around. I'm meditating in the sun. It was beautiful. The last moment of my meditation, like at the 19th minute before the 20th, before the time was up, a scene fully shot, directed, written, and acted came to me. And it was the final scene of this movie that I was going to write for the next few years, which I've been writing for a few years. The scene was there. I mean, it's very hard to explain, but I did not create this thing. It came to me. I was an antenna. I received it.
Yeah.
I was, and so now I've been writing. Now
Isn't
I'm
that
going
the
back
best?
and writing the story leading up to it.
Amazing.
That moment was a really cool fucking, oh my God, meditation
That's cool.
rules, because I just, the whole thing just showed up. And, Dylan talks about that. Bob Dylan's my favorite artist of any type. And so he talks about that. And it's a great 60 minutes interview on YouTube. You should check it out. And talking about who wrote the songs, or
I
can
think
he
I've
write those
seen that
songs?
interview.
And he's like, I didn't fucking write those songs. Like I was the vessel, but like, how could anybody write these songs? And then he like quotes his own song, which is so badass. But he's like, you try and write that. You can't. It's like, it was written, I heard it. And so that's what I feel about the best songs I think I've ever written, is that I was just trying to get them down as they were coming through me.
Yeah.
And that happens all the time in meditation, all the time, daily.
Yeah. I can back that up, a million times. As a musician, I'm a writer. First and foremost, I'm a writer. But what that used to mean to me was a very mechanical, sort of like mathematical problem: 2 + 2 + 2 = 6. When I started to open up to this, these meditative states and these higher states, and music was just there. The beat was just there. The words were there. I spent 20 years learning as an English major and a journalist how to construct important sentences and predicate adjective verb nonsense, until one day I didn't have to do any of that anymore. I sat down, and when I got up, I had something better than anything I had ever been able to mechanically think up. And it literally just felt like I had been given this gift. I had so much more gratitude for what I was now doing, because I didn't really feel like I was doing anything. I was that antenna, and I was receiving things. And when you really are receiving on that level, receiving these higher vibrations from the universe, one, you can't deny it. And two, you feel so filled with gratitude and just like, wow, that it can be so easy to have the perfect right answer just fall into your lap. The ending, the finale to your film. Here it is for you, Blake.
That construct word that you said is like key, because that's what I was talking about earlier. It's like when you asked me what the difference is between TM, which is a passive meditation, versus other types of mindful, guided, and contemplative, which are active. It's like the others, like you're trying to do something, you're trying to build something called meditation, man-made, as opposed to falling back into something that has always existed. And so that constructing thing, as opposed to hearing the music, as opposed to writing, I do also think there's definitely something to the universe that says, go out and learn how to construct for a little while, so that you can recognize the good music or good writing.
Right.
And also, so you kind of prove to the universe, like you're worth it. You're willing to put in the effort. I mean, effort is rewarded. So effort's good in the beginning. You have to learn it. You do have to work hard, I think, in the beginning to eventually work smart, not hard.
And it makes you appreciate, the process as it comes. Certainly, you learn so that you can forget. And I mean, and that really is the thing with any artist. And, we put in those 18,000 hours, whatever it might be, so that we can go, all right, I don't have to think about this anymore. I just show up in the voiceover studio and I do my voiceover thing, because I've been doing it so long that now I don't think about it. And, and it's amazing that there's even next levels of intuition beyond, what we think of.
It just reminded me and made me think, because I'm trying to connect myself to that. And it's the same thing for me when I have an image that I've shot and I'm working on it on the computer. It just kind of reveals itself to me. It's like, this is what you're going to do, and this is how you're going to manipulate this image. And I was like, yeah, that's me too. And then I realized, who said that? It was like Michelangelo or something, who said they look at the marble and it's already in the marble. They just
they have to uncover it.
They have
to uncover it.
They have to unearth it. Yeah.
It makes sense. I totally get it now.
That's amazing.
I mean, I got it before, but I get it even more now.
Blake, this was great, man. We have a tendency to say this all the time because we really do have some wonderful guests on the show week in and week out. But we have to have you back on the show sometime.
Definitely.
What a lovely conversation. I'm absolutely going to seek out the interview that inspired getting you to join us tonight. I'm so glad that Michael happened to catch it and that we were able to get you on the show, brother. Just really, we're so simpatico, and it's really just lovely to hear the same stories. Energy and wisdom coming out of another person's mouth. It's just like we are so just with you on every level, and we thank you so much for coming to join us and join our audience and pass on your wisdom. It's so cool that when I said I know somebody is on the verge of meditating, and Taylor was immediately, it's me. Right. We try to expose our audience to as many different paths to this conscious, living as we can. And because we think each one has a unique story to tell, and each unique story is going to be uniquely meaningful and different to our different audience members. And hopefully, if it's not this one, it's the next one that helps you understand your own path. And I'm sure that you helped a lot of people here today. We so thank you for coming on, and we hope you'll come on again in the future.
Yeah,
happy to, man. Thank you guys so much, and be well, everyone. Let me know if I can ever
stick around for a minute after.
Stick around. We're going to let you leave the studio, but we'll just say a quick bye to the audience. But stick around for a minute.
Okay.
Oh, that was so awesome!
Wasn't
that great? That was a good one for being next to each other and hanging out. It was so nice doing the show next to you. I'm so glad you saw that. Oh, Blake is so awesome. That was excellent. Totally. So meaningful. I am here in New York until next week, but next week I will be in Los Angeles on Thursday when we do the show. So it'll be a more normal show next week when we get going.
We're in our own little small windows.
Yeah, and we're working on more great guests for the show and building a new calendar. Our matriarch Nancy is once again been dealing with a lot of health issues, and anybody who spends any time meditating or praying, please send some healing and love to Nancy and the Rock Against MS Network, who support us on Twitch, because it's really been a rough moment for her, but she's hanging in there, and she's still trying to bat 1,000 for us and get this thing moving so we can influence more people in the right way. But thank you all for joining us. Thank you to all the sweet comments. Some of them I saw there were some really nice things that were actually written about me that didn't get I didn't thank anybody.
We put them up, sometimes but we're into the conversation.
We were so into the conversation, but thank you. There was a bunch of really sweet things that people said, and you guys are always so wonderful, so supportive. I'm heading back over to my girl. She's at our hotel over here. I'm going to be out here for the weekend, going to Coney Island, have a nice time showing my girl around New York.
Secret project.
Yeah, working on some secret projects. That's other cool stuff. Me and Michael are working on something creative. We got some cool stuff brewing. Anyway, thank you for joining us on another fabulous live stream of consciousness. Join us next Thursday.
Peace.